Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday.
Let's jump right into this because this is going to be a very interesting episode. You ready to start the show?
Sure thing.
Hey, everyone, and welcome to or welcome back to One Man and One Woman, the podcast. I am one half of your co hosts, Tara Michelle.
And I am J. Flan.
Today, we are going to be talking about somebody who stays in the media and, in my opinion, for all the wrong reasons. But this is extra special. What he's saying is happening right now is extra special. So let's do this Kanye episode. Let's start off talking about. Well, let me ask you this question: were you ever a fan of Kanye?
Huge fan. The biggest fan. Um, and when my fledgling rap career was trying to take off, Kanye was the pioneer. He opened the door. He made it so that any man, a regular dude, you didn't have to be a gangster, you didn't have to be a drug dealer, and you didn't have to be common wearing crochet hats in order to be a rapper. You could be a regular dude and and represent for the backpackers and all of that stuff. So Kanye was the blueprint. He was the path to follow for me for a long time. That's when we were trying to sell me places. They were trying to sell me as a Kanye that don't make beats. But yes, I was a huge fan.
Okay, I just wanted to, and I was too. My favorite album by him is 808s and Heartbreaks. I know that's his first three albums. College Dropout, Late Registration, and what's the other one?
College graduation.
Yeah, that one. I mean, duh. Um, but if you dropped out, how you graduate? I mean, anyway, that's. But I just wanted to make sure that we started off by saying that so people wouldn't assume that we were two people who always hated him or anything like that. Because in my opinion, and let me know how you feel about this, what has happened to Kanye is a tragic loss in terms of music. Because of course I don't know this man personally, but even as a black woman, to watch a black man going through this is next level. I don't think I've seen a person outside of Britney Spears melt down like this publicly. And in both cases, there are some severe mental health issues. And in both cases, they got off their meds. And as far as I know, Kanye won't go back on them. So, what do you know about him and his mental health issues? Like, I know he's bipolar, but do you know if there's anything else going on there?
No, I'm not aware of anything else going on there. Like I said, I only know, I guess, what he's told us, and I stopped following him, a while back because, uh, yeah, I'm not a fan of watching train wrecks, and I felt like a lot of what he was doing was immensely harmful, and so I couldn't participate in it anymore. But yeah, I'm not aware of anything beyond the bipolar, but I'm aware that he's bipolar, and that's my issue.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so let me ask you this: when, what was the breaking point for you, for Kanye? Like when you were just done?
The slavery was a choice. Not no, no, not slavery was a choice. That was when he ran for president. Um, that was the breaking point for me because I felt like that was he was not running with the intention of winning. He was running solely with the intention of pulling votes away. Um, to get his boy in. And if you're supporting your candidate, I can't blame you for supporting your candidate, but do it like up front, like be 100% about it. Don't do a fake presidential campaign at the last minute to try to assist your guy. Like you want to use your influence to get us to vote for you, so we don't vote for someone else, and you can shoehorn your fella in. Like, however, if that's if you wanted your guy in office, just say that. I don't like the manipulation and the grandstanding and the crying with a bulletproof vest. All of that was probably that was when he lost me.
I feel bad, as an educated black woman because I don't remember that. I don't remember him running for president, which is why I was laughing, and I hope I'm not laughing over you speaking, but I just thought I remember something about, like, him wearing the MAGA hat and him being, like, so close to Trump, but I do not remember that
Saying
that
like
boy ran for president.
that man said something like Trump was like his daddy. He said a lot of crazy
Yeah.
things. So yeah, yeah. It's so many things, and
Oh my
I
god.
don't know.
I almost choked.
I'll be interested to see where the conversation goes and what information you provide because I said I don't follow the dude. I have gotten a mention, a whiff of whatever's going on with him right now on social media, but I don't know any of the details. So I'm kind of holding back. Let me not hold back. I've said it in the past, so it's already out there. I've said fuck him for life. Like that's my
Ooh,
stance on Kanye at this point. Um, Now, depending on what else you what else you present for the rest of the episode, I may have to take those words back, and if I do, I will. I'll apologize and say I was wrong, but we'll see where we end up.
well, the way that I look at Kanye now, because I have to be careful because he said so many egregious things. I don't think when he got in trouble for the anti Semitism or being anti Semitic, there was I didn't hear all of what he said, but the things that they were talking about at first to me were not anti um Semitic. He was saying Jewish people are good with money. They have a lot of the money. And if you say something about them, Hollywood will shut you down. And what happened? That's exactly what happened. We saw it happen with Nick Cannon too. So I think that the fact that you can't mention a Jewish person or the fact that they're good with money and the fact that they run a lot of things in Hollywood is insane to me. I don't even know why they would want that to be covered up. But I think sometimes he's gotten the short end of the stick on things just because people dislike him so much. But I'm truly concerned about his latest antics. So for me, I never followed Kanye. I liked his music. And I know this might sound weird to a lot of you guys listening, but I'm not a fan of following people in their real everyday lives. It's really weird to me. Now, I don't mind seeing like every now and then when Sierra and Russell are together because I just like to see Black love. But I can't name all their kids. Only kid's name I know, I think, Future, for other reasons. But I think the other little boy's name is Win. Do I know the little girl's name? Is it Sierra or Sienna or something? Maybe I do know, but I don't know the new baby name. But anyway, I don't think it's natural or normal to follow people day in and day out. So when I think about Kanye, first of all, going through that car accident, which probably gave him some level of PTSD and maybe even shook his brain a little, like adult shaking adult syndrome instead of baby shaking baby syndrome. Losing his mother, who he seemed to be really, really close with. I don't know his father dynamic any at all, being bipolar, people saying he was a musical genius. One thing I will say, and I'll ask you if you notice this too. Why does it seem like people who are given that musical genius thing, like that the pedophile, y'all know who I'm talking about, Kanye and other people seem to be crazy? Like,
Yeah.
not we got bipolar as a diagnosis now, schizophrenia, things like that, but they seem to be messed up on way more than just a chemical imbalance type of thing. They seem to be batshit for all, intents and purposes. Do you notice that correlation with people who we give like great genius status to?
Yeah, I mean, I've always kind of said that, yeah, and I think it extends, to all genres, be it your mathematicians or your, celloists, whatever it is. I think I think for certain people, like there, you can't open certain windows in the mind and control just what comes in. You're only going to get the good stuff that comes in. I think these people that have the ability sometimes to see the world differently and to hear the world differently or whatever the unique perspective they have that allows them to be great in this one area may also warp their perspective in another, and maybe not even warp, it's just different. And you know sometimes different is crazy, sometimes it's not in this case. But like Pharrell, has that disorder where he sees sounds, you know and like and so that's a cool way where like the quote unquote quite crazy or the quote unquote thing that's, I don't want to say wrong or off, or the thing that's different about
Is it a
you.
disorder? or a gift?
Well, it's uh, however we want to see it. It's a gift for him, right? It's a gift for him. I'm sure there are some people who suffer from it, and there are other people who thrive in it. But yeah, I
Mm,
think that thing that makes you different, that allows you to see the world differently, manifest in a lot of different ways, and it's not always great. There are a lot of people. A lot of the greatest art comes out of pain. These are people that were in.
the best things I've ever written in my life, I was going through some things, so I agree with that.
There are people that were going through
I think
excruciating pain, and that's what fueled that genius.
I exactly, and I think that, like, being an empath, being somebody who feels what other people feel to a degree that sometimes it feels like I'm drowning, um, I used to think of it as a problem. Now I like it because I've learned to live with it, and like you said, I've learned to, like, just, like, thrive in it, and it is also a buffer. It's also something that can stop me from dealing with somebody who might be really, really bad to have in my life. But I think for rails sounds cool, but I could also see how somebody who was not living the type of life that he is and using it and utilizing it the way that he is, like, to be able to see sound, is it sound or color?
For him, it's
Sound?
sound. Yeah, but
To be able to see
imagine,
sound and you're a music producer and you create music, like, come on, like, that's a superpower.
but imagine if you weren't a music producer and
That's what I was just saying.
you see sounds when cars drive by and when
Or
horns honk
drive-by
or
shooting.
sirens or shootings.
Yes.
Like that's a different thing.
Yes. Yep, fully. And maybe because he's been able to do that, that's why he chose music. But back to Kanye. Okay, so and this is I'm not an apologist for him. I'm not maybe I am a sympathizer for him. The problem with Kanye for me is I don't know what's real and what's fake. I do not know if he really okay. If you guys have not this why am I so I don't even know how to have this conversation, but he recently came out and said that when he was younger, he and his cousin had found some magazines of his father's, and his father had Playboy magazines. But in his statement, what he said was, I also found some magazines from my mother, and hers were different. And my little cousin and I, his cousin was 6. I don't know how old he was. I don't know if he was 7 or 8 or what. We found my mom's magazines and we began to act out what we saw. And so in reading that, while everybody was tripping off of what he said he was doing to his cousin, I thought to myself, Dad had Playboy. Mom had other magazines, but they were different. I believe his mom must have been gay. And what she had was male on male, maybe some female on female too. But because Kanye and his cousin were boys, they're male, they decided to act out what they saw the men doing. Because it would have been very easy. It would have been very easy for him to just say, my dad had Playboy, my mom had Hustler. Instead, he said, my moms were different. And that's what I had to bring to the conversation, the many conversations I've had on podcasts and things like that over these last couple of days about this. So if you, as a young boy, maybe he's been bipolar the whole time and this is just how his brain worked. He said that he had been given fellatio or giving head or whatever you want to say, performing oral sex on his little cousin from the age of 6 until he was 14. That's what he said. Now, if you, as a human being who is not a doctor and somebody who just cares about people, go back to the car accident, go back to him losing his mother, not having a relationship with his father. Look at how he was going to marry that first girl he was with. He fumbled that and then went to just worse and worse and worse in terms of the females that he dated. He didn't get any help. When he tried to get help, he said it made him feel like a zombie. It took away his ability to thrive and his ability to love and his ability to make music. So now he has to choose in between being mentally stable and sound and being able to make a living. I think the reason that Kanye does not want to take the medicine is because it takes away his artistry. So now you have to choose, like moms have to choose in between being a mom and going back to work. And sometimes you got to choose in between going to work while your child is sick. Like those hard decisions. I feel like that's the type of decision he's had to make to thrive and be great at his craft or get on something that's going to dull that in order for him to seem normal according to societal standards. And then you add this trauma because that trauma predates even his mom being gone. We're just finding out. But if it's for real and it's not a publicity stunt, he's been dealing with that since he was 6, 7, 8 years old. And you again, the mania that would cause him to say slavery sounds like a choice. Somebody could say that in the extreme, meaning they should have killed themselves if they didn't like it then. But come on, that's not really a choice. You know, I think we are seeing the unraveling of a person in real time. And I, after hearing him say what he did to his cousin and what they experienced, do not know how to be as disgusted with him as I was. I feel sorry for this human being. As someone who knows what it's like to have things done to you as a child at the hands of an adult, I don't think I could live with myself if I would have turned around and became the predator. If I would be the one telling stories about what I did to some child. So how do you reconcile that? And then being us on the outside looking in, we have no access to this man. Bianca tried to have him 5150. He fought that off. Everybody's tried to get him, some help, and he fights it. What do we do? But watching the train wreck is not the right thing. This to me feels cruel, and I would almost rather they cut all social media access off for him. But then that's against freedom of speech. I am torn, and I feel so sorry for him.
I do sympathize. Let me be clear that I sympathize with what Kanye has gone through. Um, Again, I do believe we're all suffering from some sort of trauma, and I don't do the trauma Olympics where we compare your sexual assault to my you know bad parenting or something. I don't know, but like trauma's trauma. You hurt, and so we're all kind of working through things. And the thing that bothers me about Kanye is that he is aware and he's making this choice. He's making this choice, and to go back to what you were saying earlier, we really need to start having the conversation about what making a living means. There is a lot of gap between where Kanye is and the ability to survive. Um, so I'm not saying I say that to say, you know, music and he was in a great position to probably be set for the rest of his life and not have to worry about making a living without some of the decisions that he's made. But music is not that important that if you're consciously making the decision to continuously behave the way that you're behaving or continuously suffer through what you're suffering through, knowing that untreated it leads you to do the things that you've done. And we need to be honest about how harmful the things he has done have been. Like I said, that presidential campaign was purposeful. You can't tell me this man is a genius and then tell me he didn't know what he was doing when he ran for president. Two things don't go together. Um, and then because we sympathize, we do a lot of mental gymnastics to make things make sense for him. And another way his behavior is harmful is when he said the slavery was a choice thing, it divided us. We spent a significant amount of time having conversations about the validity of that statement and going back and forth, and people doing the mental gymnastics for him to make it make sense. He made his statement and didn't provide all of this extra context that everybody else somehow knew he meant, but he didn't say. Um, and then we were having those arguments. It was dividing people, and people were, how people get about artists that they like. It was
Mhm.
divisive. It was to the point where it's like, I don't like you because of what you said about Kanye. And then he comes out and says, "Oh, I was." What he said, he was on some diet pills. I forgot what his excuse was for what he said, but the damage had already been done. None of those people who was riding for him when he said it and were making it make sense for him came back and said, "Oh, okay, nah, he was on diet pills at the time. Uh, I take all that back. It was all BS." Now, that never happens. So all these things, the anti-Semitic stuff, we as a black community got it picked sides. And you had people that were saying, "Nah, it's horrible. You shouldn't have said that." And you had the people who was, And if all of this stuff is just fueled by your mental illness, then lock yourself in the studio and make music. Tell somebody to take your phone and have no internet access in there. But if you're gonna do this and you know that you're not well, I need you to get the help. If you don't want to take the medication, talk to somebody, do some therapy, do something. But I need you to get the help. I would love to hear the Kanye West album the recovery album. I'd love to hear him on the other side of this and what joy, what true, genuine joy sounds like coming out of Kanye. I
I
think that would
mean,
be
but you
dope, and I
wouldn't
think
hear
we
it.
deserve it.
But you wouldn't you just said F him for forever, so how would you hear the
Because if
album?
he's not making any, if I need you to make an attempt to come back, you can't keep doing what you're doing and think we're gonna ever be cool just because you have a disorder. I am bipolar. It does not. That's not a get out of jail free card, or it's not a license to behave badly. I don't get to go do something and then say, "Oops, I'm bipolar. Forgot I wasn't on my meds."
That's the
Like,
thing though, has he himself ever used that as an excuse? Or does everyone else, like his friends, like Dave Chappelle, have we heard him use that as an excuse, or is it everybody else?
well, he's mentioning the fact that he's not on his meds. Like, we know he's not on his meds because he's told us he's not on his meds. I don't know what the context of that conversation was, but again, the guy knows he has a problem. I know he gets questioned about all of this crazy stuff he do, getting head on a boat somewhere. Like, it's just not.
So let me ask you this as someone who has been diagnosed with bipolarism. Are there levels?
I'm sure. So I am bipolar too, and so for me, it seems like I may be the opposite of Kanye because he has like manics, and I experienced what's called hypomania, which is not quite mania. But that's because my normal is low. So it's like if we were on a scale, he's etched up toward the top and I'm etched up toward the bottom. What his normal is probably my manic, and then, what his depressive is may be my normal, and then my depressive is like suicidal. And it sounds like Kanye's been there too. But yeah, they're I don't know. The greatest gift I was given was knowing what was wrong with me, and then
Right.
you can do something.
I have a brother who was diagnosed too, and that's the exact same thing my baby said to me. He said, "You know, sis, when I got that information, it put things into perspective for me. I felt like, okay, now I know. Now I can move forward with, getting whatever I need to get in order to be okay." Do you know what I'm saying? But again, I go back to the accident and this stuff happening as a kid and him losing his mom and the industry he's in. He's in the industry where people are gonna be yes women and yes men. He was at them Diddy parties. Um, the only thing he has in his life that may still make him happy is music. I mean, he has his kids now, but we don't know how often Kim is letting him see them because of what he's doing. So if this is the last thing you have to hold on to, it's the thing you love more than anything in the world. It also happens to be the way that you provide for yourself and provide for your kids because he got to pay like $200,000 a month or something craziness. But if you are out of sorts, I want to say out of your mind, but I want to be very careful. I'm not taking any of this mental health stuff lightly. But if you're out of your mind for all intents and purposes, and you are from this Hollywood hellhole and all of the other stuff that you have going on, without somebody like 5150 him and putting him in and shooting him up with whatever the medicine is or forcing it down his throat to get him stable, he's not going to wake up and make these decisions on his own. He's not going to, he doesn't, it's like he doesn't see who he's hurting. He doesn't think that when he says these things, it's hurting them. He thinks it's real. You know somebody who was out of sorts recently. Nothing that he was saying was making sense, but you could not tell him that all the stuff he was thinking and saying wasn't reality. So I don't know that the Kanye that's walking around with that half naked girl, Bianca Sensorial, whatever her name is, and dealing with all this backlash, this man might be the type of dude who sits there and reads every comment made about him. Like this, he's not okay. So I don't know that we can hold him accountable for what he's doing. I
Who do
don't
we
think
hold
he
accountable?
understands.
If we don't hold him accountable, then who?
Like, again, I don't know. I mean, we know he did it, but that's like, okay. So what's the difference between somebody strung out on bipolarism, meaning in it deep, no medication, fully unbalanced, and a person who's schizophrenic and thinks there's somebody sitting right next to you getting ready to kill you right now? As I'm looking at you and I know that there's nobody else in there with you.
Yeah,
If I just started yelling at you and telling you they're about to say, you know what I'm saying? We don't hold them accountable.
we do. Let a schizophrenic person kill one of your family members and see if they don't face a penalty. They may
Let's
not
not.
go to jail, but they going
He hasn't
somewhere.
killed anyone.
Well, I'm just saying, like we don't. They You still are accountable. Like if they steal a candy bar, there's still a penalty to be had. Like it's not. It's not.
But
It's
should you? Should you be
you can.
penalized if you're not in your right mind? Yes, your mind. It's your right
So
from
if the
wrong, your sense and sensibility, your how do we penalize them? What we do as a penalty is we put them someplace and make them get on their meds. That is what we
yeah,
do.
yes,
Unless the meds cause cancer and stuff like that, because they had some medicines out there for people with bipolarism who were causing crazy rates of breast cancer. So you definitely don't want to trade one thing for the other. But taking that part out, how do we hold somebody not in their right mind accountable?
you. So if this music thing is how he makes his living or whatever, I mean, this is how the public holds somebody accountable. You don't continue to support them. Like we not listening to R. Kelly anymore. It's very easy
Oh, you
to
know
make that
that.
argument.
Oh God.
Very easy to make that argument. There were people who turned their back on Michael Jackson. There were people who turned their back on Isaac Hayes with the Scientology stuff. We've done it before. Like if you don't agree with something, you don't. Sometimes we can't put the art in front of the artist. And he needs help, and somebody close
Yes.
to him needs to try to help him get that help. They're not
They
going to
all
commit him.
tried.
They're not going to
Dave
commit him.
Chappelle and everybody, Kim and Bianca, just the reason that they, were talking about they were getting ready to get a divorce is because she just tried to trick him and get him committed.
I mean, and we keep trying. Either he's good, but the thing about it is, as a person that's bipolar, and as a person that's suffered from addiction, um, it's never going to work until he wants to do it. Until he thinks he has an issue and wants to be better, is the best you could do is lock him up someplace. And but I'm
But
just
I'm saying,
like
like,
I'm
so
saying, if you want to stay on your med, if you want to stay off your meds and be creative, then just maybe get on your meds long enough to make a plan for when you're off your meds. And then, like I said, he be recording up in Wyoming somewhere. Go up to Wyoming, lock yourself in the studio, you can have all the same people that come through, get Sci High the Prince. I guess you can't call Big Sean no more. Uh but get whoever else you want, Dave Chappelle, everybody will come to you. You just don't have no phone and you don't have no internet access
social media.
and no social media.
See,
And just
that's what I
create.
think too. I think too. But then I think about this. We have freedom of speech. And so, because I've said a couple of times, why can't we just lock him up? Why can't you 5150 somebody, have them evaluated, have the doctor say, okay, this person is in a state that is so just messed up that we need to get them into a sane place. Put them on the medication. If it takes 30 days, keep them in there for 30 days. And then when they are stable, sit down and have a conversation. Hey, let us show you the videos of all the things and all the screenshots of all the things you've been saying and doing. When we know this person is in a logical headspace and go from there. But it's illegal apparently. Like you can't just commit someone if they are deemed and who is deeming him in his right mind though? Who is saying that Kanye is sane
I
enough
mean, because you have
and
to
lucid
prove
enough
you
to make
have
his
to
own decisions?
you have to prove that somebody is not a danger to others or themselves. So
How do we prove that with the mess that he's been on?
unless he's tried to self-harm, or unless he's tried to assault or hurt someone else, it's very difficult to get somebody committed in that way. But here's what I'm saying. Like, because we get a lot of things. To me, in my opinion, we get a lot of things twisted. We do have freedom of speech. But freedom does not mean lack of consequences. Freedom means you can say whatever you feel like saying, provided you're willing to accept the consequences. There are consequences to the things that he's doing. And maybe he needs to be hit with the consequences. And that might shake him to the point where, oh, I got to do something. But as long as we're like, oh, but it's Kanye and he's bipolar and I understand, like somebody told me something very important in recovery. When I started to work with other addicts or have, other addicts and people in the house with me and we had to try to help them work through things when they would be messing up and we would try to hide it or we would try to explain it away or we would try to fix it so they didn't get in trouble. She would say, you are you are blocking him from his rock bottom. You are stopping that person from getting to the point they need to get to in order to turn around. You think what you're doing is caring for them and loving them, but what you're actually doing is you're shielding them from the consequences that might just shake them out. It might teach them the lesson that life apparently is trying to teach them. So yes, he got freedom of speech. He can say whatever he wants to. You can't take his phone from him. Let him have it, but let him face the consequences of what he says.
Yeah. It's hard. And again, I'm not apologizing for him. I'm not sympathizing with him. I don't know if this is a publicity stunt or if it's real. Like it's just a convoluted situation. But I really do hate to see a human being going through something like this. It's very hard to watch for because it's very ugly. It's a bad thing to see somebody go through.
Hey, Kanye,
And
call me. Reach out. We could talk.
he had that in Charlemagne too, and even Charlemagne got sick of it. Charlemagne's like, you know what, this dude is weak. He doesn't really want help. You know, and I think we also to the lesson here is we got to stop calling people geniuses because I don't even know what he means. I don't know why somebody would call him a musical genius. I can understand if they were talking about the first black pianists and people like that, and then the Beethovens and the Mozarts and all those people who came afterwards and created some new stuff and did some new things. I don't really know what was so magnificent about Kanye. I just liked his albums. I don't hear people calling Dr. Dre a genius like that. I don't hear people calling other people who have really ushered in genres or what have you. So I never understood why we kept calling him a musical genius, but I think some of that led to his breakdown. I think you guys may have fed his ego so much. He's such a self-righteous. Sometimes you get these people who are so self-righteous that you just cannot penetrate through to them. They've
Right.
never done anything wrong. It's everybody else's fault. They are so high and mighty at this point, and you peons or peasants can't tell them anything. So I go back to how is he supposed to get help? How is Kim or anybody else supposed to get through to this man? He's so
And
far
again,
gone, it's ridiculous.
and this is where to me, it's tough love. A couple things. I'm trying to. Just a couple. Oh, why I think he's a genius. Um, Kanye West, as a person who loves hip hop, and I was very into music and the producers and beats and stuff like that. Kanye West was the first time I listened to a hip hop beat, and it was a composition. It wasn't a loop. It wasn't anything that looped for 16 bars and then switched back to something else. It was a living, breathing. I don't know. Composition is the only word I can come up with. Uh, it had theme and variation. The instrumentation changed. Um, it was next level to me in terms of what I had become accustomed to with hip hop. So I do understand a little bit of the Genius label. But you asked me earlier if I knew of any like coexisting um, disorders, co-occurring disorders that let's maybe not start. Let me stop calling them disorders. Co-occurring conditions that Kanye might be suffering with. And yet, when you talk about the self righteousness and all, he displays a lot of narcissistic tendencies. And yes, um, trying to tell a narcissist that they're a narcissist is impossible. And trying to, you know, rationalize some of these things with a narcissist is going to be virtually impossible. What may be the trigger is when you lack community. As human beings, we want to be amongst each other. We want to be around each other. And when our behavior pushes everybody away, that is usually a sign that we need to change. He needs something needs to signal to him that he cares about, that he needs to change. And maybe the lack of attention, the lack of eyes, the lack of responses, the lack of comments, the lack of whatever could be that trigger. But yeah, we're dealing with someone who's clearly unwell, and for good reason. He has a reason to be unwell. And then when you couple that with the narcissistic traits, yeah, conversations are probably not going to be the way. I'm not saying they're not worth attempting, but it's tough love.
I think, and this is the last thing I'm going to say about this, but I think that as a people, when you have someone who's this big of a star and you say you care about them and you want them to get back to normal, I think your take on this might be the best option. The media should stop talking about him. And Twitter and Instagram and all those private companies or whatever that have the right to cancel accounts and silence accounts and things like that, like they did to Boosie and all these other people, need to not give him a platform to speak. We as a people in any way that we can should be making it very hard for him to see a benefit in behaving this way. If we're talking about tough love, then it's like treat him like the boy that cried wolf at this point. Ignore him. Don't write about him. Don't talk about him. Don't allow him on your podcast or on your shows. Make him just fade into the abyss or into oblivion until he seeks help, because it's the attention. I think he's also seeking the attention. He feeds off of it, just like Trump. And so, and that's not a political statement. Trump has always been that way. When he was kicking it with black people and running around Hollywood with his best friend Oprah Winfrey and Whoopi Goldberg and all of that stuff, he's always been an attention-seeking whore. And that's the same with Kanye. So if you take away the attention, you take away the ability to reach the masses stop looking for it, stop clicking on it, stop sharing it. We might be able to help this man. The same way Black Twitter and other groups can get together and be internet detectives and sleuths and find people and get them fired for being racist Karens and stuff like that. Put your collective power together to silence him as well. And then maybe it's like starving a man or starving a person, and you eat away at all the bad mutated abnormal things in your body. You do dry fasting or you do a water fast. Maybe it's like that. Maybe we get rid of his narcissism or help him get rid of his narcissism. Maybe we bring him out of this cloud or this consistent storm he's in, and he sees that he needs help and he does it. But if we keep giving him the space, the opportunity, and the time to do this type of stuff, he's never going to stop.
Yeah, yeah. And outside, Kanye West, when I think on that last album on Donda, I don't know if that's the last one, but he has songs with Andre 3000 and he has a song with Jay Z. Two of my favorite artists, hurt me to my soul. But I have never listened to. I haven't heard a second of either one of those songs, and I won't.
Really? Oh my, because let me tell you something. The one with Andre,
Nope.
I
I'm
was
sorry, and I'll
crying.
never hear it. I'll never hear it.
I was crying. Okay, so what if he does his redemption tour and comes, we go back and do it then?
Yeah, I'll go
Because
back and do it then.
hey, just look, let me get the timestamp for you of when Andre starts and when he ends, and you just listen to that. You ain't got to listen to nothing else.
I
It
can't do
was
it. I can't give him a spin. He ain't
yo
gonna get no spins from me.
beautiful.
It hurts. I swear it hurts. But he won't get a spin from me. Not a single one.
You would love Andre's verse. My God, to hear that man talking about, ask your mama to go talk to my mama. And oh my God, listen, excellent. So on that note, I've said my piece. I think you've said your piece again. If you care about that man and want to see him do better, maybe we need to starve him of the attention that he craves. I don't know. But like I always tell you guys, be good to yourselves and be kind to others. And until we hear you again next week, or you hear us again next week, holla.
Holla.